Alright, gonna get straight into this. Alright, so James Tiny Vest, he's a YouTube channel, and he made a video a few hours ago talking about what's so noble about being a natty, a response to the noble natties movement. Meaning that, oh, you're natty, good for you. What's so noble about it? Just because you're natty doesn't mean you are noble, or you should get like a badge of honor of moral ethics for being natty. And even Jason Blaha, back in like August, he made a video saying the noble natties are self-righteous. They think they're like better than everybody. Holy art thou, people, for being natural. And I mean, it's been in the culture a lot. Even as far as when I was in the Facebook and online lifting community, I would talk about myself being natural, and then there would always be these lifters, whether they were natural or not natural. They would say, "Oh, look, we have a natty lifter over here. See, nobody cares," or "Nobody cares if you're natty," or "Who cares if you're natty?" Even people who aren't strong or jacked themselves, they'll be like, "Nobody cares if you're natural," or you use the natural as a badge of honor, or you have low self-esteem for being natural. Like, okay, so the point is, people on the internet or just in general get so insecure about another person being proud of being natural, as if they're doing as if they're a menace to society for being natural, as if they're doing such a disservice because they're not using steroids. God forbid you say you're natural. God forbid you're proud of being natural. God forbid you promote being natural. And God forbid that you're promoting the natural lifestyle. That doesn't, and even as far as not even saying, not even like insulting those who use steroids, not even saying, "Oh, you're using steroids is bad for you." Not even judging others who use steroids like you're negatively judging people for being natural. But even if you are judging people for using steroids, you're doing that for people who are being natural. And back then, I mean, it's been a big cultural shift nowadays. For the past, as long as we remember, especially since like the 90s when steroids got illegal, it was in the long for the longest time people are like, the general consensus of the public and gym goers is that, oh, you take steroids, you're a cheater. Steroids, you don't work hard. Steroids, you're cheating. You steroids, people. Once you take steroids, you could instantly build muscle. Once you take steroids, you could instantly get strong, which is what the public's perception of it, which is far from true. We later realized that you could take all the steroids in the world. If you don't train the right way, if you don't train for a long time, if you don't have your nutrition on point, if you don't have the genetics, you're not gonna take steroids and be Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're not gonna take steroids and be Ronnie Coleman. You're not gonna be the world's strongest man. You're not gonna be Larry Wheels. You're not gonna be John Hack. You're not gonna be all these. You're not gonna be all these big figures. You're not gonna look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson. You're not gonna look like John Cena. You're not gonna be all these people if you take steroids. Steroids doesn't make you these people automatically. You have to have genetics and put in the work. But most people, they're not willing to put in the work. Most people are not willing to, like instead of doing a set of 10, they're not willing to make it to 10 reps. They'll rack it early. Or they're not, and if they have to do a set of 20, they won't even make it to 15. Once they get 10 and the back of their head throbs at rep 12, they'll rack it at rep 12. They won't do 3 more reps. They won't do rep 13, 14, 15 and endure the pain. And doing that day after day, week after week. Most people are not willing to train in that way. And most people are not willing to either eat enough food or a lot of food and force feed to gain weight and do that in a slow period of time. Most people, and it's about the right foods too. Most people aren't willing to eat enough to gain weight and muscle, or most people aren't willing to diet with their junk food diet, eating processed food, eating sweets, eating all the junk, refined sugars. Most people are gonna stick to that diet, and they're not willing to give those foods up so they could get healthier and get leaner. But anyway, with that being said, so it's just not, oh, you take a bunch of steroids, you instantly become Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, you still need genetics, man. And as far as natural goes, right? So what's so bad about promoting being natural in a day and age where you have to be basically a piece of garbage to be saluted. You have to use expletives, swear all up and down. You have to be a degenerate as a person. You have to be Mr. Bad Boy. You have to be Mr. Tough Guy. You have to do drugs and alcohol. That's saluted. Why do we live in a society where you salute using drugs? Where using drugs and alcohol and the rest of that stuff. And yes, steroid is a drug. All those drugs. Why is that celebrated? Why do we why do we why do we hold that to a high standard? Why is that all celebrated? And yeah, why is it celebrated? And why is being a clean cut guy with morals, being a square, being a guy with morals, being a person with self respect, being a religious person, even if you're not religious, just being a respectful person, being a square, being an educated person, not acting like a thug gangster, a hard ass. Why do you have to be a jerk off to get love and admiration? Why can't you just have any sort of moral compass? But but yeah, it's just lost in this world, especially with the youth, where it seems like all these degenerates are the ones that get all the love. They're the ones that we are basing our behavior after and aspire to be. But anyway, I also understand that in to be the best in the world, you have to take steroids. You have to. Because you can still do very well naturally. That's what the Noble Natty movement is made. Because they're showing that you could build muscle naturally, you could be strong naturally, you could get a good physique naturally, you could get a good healthy fitness ideas, just living the fitness lifestyle in a healthy way that doesn't involve chemicals. Is that so is that so unethical? Being ethical? Is what's so wrong about that? So that's what the Noble Natty just wants to do. And yeah, you could be winning championships naturally. You could break world records naturally. You could be you could really win naturally. You could be healthy naturally. You could look good. You could be strong. You could be healthy. And that's really the goal of the Noble Natty movement, because for the longest time, it was believed that all your heroes in sports and in bodybuilding and in strength world, they're all taking drugs. And and that's just the reality. And the truth is, you can still do well and even be the best if possible. Impossible, nothing is impossible. But with that being said, you could still be the guy who does the impossible, and with all that same circumstances, that same person could take drugs and be that much better. But what do you want to do? Be the best ever, aka take steroids, which is most people, and that comes with sacrifices. Or do you want to still be relatively healthy, even if you're natural, it's not that healthy? Or you want to just go on your own terms, just do the best you can naturally, and not be the best, maybe not even be that known, maybe be forgotten, but still stuck to your roots, stick to your beliefs. But yeah, who am I talking? Well, for one, I I don't know if I'm really part of the Noble Natty clique because I'm a smaller channel. I'm an underground channel, and I don't upload as much because I'm not a YouTuber. I just do this as a hobby. But I am known in the community, for those that know me, as one of the early guys who achieved a lot of strength naturally. Before the Jesus Oliveras, before the Ashton Ruskas, before the SJJ Bobs, before the Russells, it was me who was doing all this stuff naturally. I was the 700-pound natural puller. I was a 400-pound natural bencher. I was a 600-pound natural squatter. And I was doing all these super super heavy weights for high reps in every lift. And I was doing that having a lot of muscle mass from head to toe, built like a bodybuilder. Now the people I mentioned, they do a better job than me, and they a better job than I have. So I was one of the first people killing it naturally, and I was known for my natural accolades. And so I'm kind of in the position to talk about this. I'm accomplished myself. Yeah, I'm past my prime. That's due to injuries and whatnot, and this not being a primary focus, but I'm still holding my own. And it's not over for me. So, yeah. What haven't I covered? If I'm gonna make a follow-up video on this later when I guess I'm more coherent or I have more to say or anything I have left out. But if you have any questions on this topic on Noble Natties, drop down below. If you have any opinions that I could just continue this conversation on what is really wrong with being natural. In fact, tell me about what you think about the Noble Natties, or what do you think about being natural in general, or what do you think about steroids even. And believe it or not, I'm gonna tell you 100%, and this is my own bias, I'm not against steroids at all. In fact, I'm a natural who actually is a fan of steroids. I'm a fan of steroid sport. I'm a fan of people performing at the highest level. And even with that, I'm somebody that knows that this is not something kids should be using. This is not something those drugs take years off your life. If you have predisposed medical conditions, it could get you them faster, get you really sick and die. And as far as TRT goes, TRT is good if you're an older male who has crippling low testosterone where you're always fatigued, or you'll get the negative effects of having low testosterone as a male when you're older. Because no male, especially when you're older, should have low testosterone, because you're going to have a lot of health problems when you have low testosterone. That means you're kind of slowly dying. So you have to have it in the normal range, because I'm not a doctor, but I personally believe prostate cancer could happen if you have too low testosterone. But it's also believed that TRT can give prostate cancer. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a TRT doctor. But when it comes to other compounds needed to be the best, it'll take years off your life, and it'll take steroid abuse. And especially in this generation where lifters especially the social media generation, where I can make a video separate on that to discuss more. We have a lot of youth, teenagers jumping on gear even more. It was happening then, but not as much because their influencers are doing it, so it's easy access, easy spread of information. Body dysmorphia is on a high. In fact, I can make a separate video on body dysmorphia, not to make this too long. But yeah, this is pretty much ending it. This was just about the noble natties. What's wrong with being natty? Why is it a shame to be natty? The point of the noble natty movement. The why you should stay natty. What's so wrong with being natty? And the rest and the whole 9 yards. So I talked long enough. You could talk about my marvelous voice, my marvelous tone and dialect, and the way I talk, my vernacular, my the way I talk about speech, even that, those, whatever, mouth.